you see the TikToks or the videos. If Johnny had 2 apples, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you because you get frustrated. I get frustrated. I'm like, Journey, do you know the sight word?
Yeah.
You know? In America, your zip code can predict your GPA. Not because of talent, but because the system was built that way. American minority children are experiencing disparities at a substantial rate. And it's sad. It's crazy that in a time of AI and technical innovation, we find that in 2025, we're decreasing rapidly in the education level of most minority children. And I think that we have a big role to play in that.
What role? Is it the parenting, lack of leadership, lack of discipline?
I could stop you. It's all of the above. I think that somewhere we can start as Black parents is education at home.
Yeah.
I think that we send our kids to these institutions that we don't necessarily trust, and we find that majority of the teachers, actually almost 80% of educators, are white.
Yeah.
And it's not an issue with the teachers being white. It's more about an issue with us that we're not even going into these job fields, but then we expect that these teachers are going to identify with our children when they don't understand our culture, they don't understand how we operate, and they don't understand or have the patience for our children because they don't identify with them. We have to stop sending our kids to these schools thinking that it's the end all be all and they have a measure to guarantee our kids' success.
Yeah, because literally just based off of that stat, right? If you have 80% of the teachers, the educators are predominantly white, right? Mm-hmm. That means you only have 20% of educators that are minorities, mm-hmm. which means the people that are teaching our children, and educating our children, they don't understand them, they don't have the patience for it, and they don't look like them. So you see, especially with children, because children are in adolescence, right? So what they don't know, they don't know how to act. Mm-hmm. What they don't see, they don't know how to maneuver and lead around, right? So we need to focus on having more Black teachers, more minority teachers, so that way our children can sit back, get a little more comfortable, and not only just Black teachers and minority teachers, we need to have better qualified and more experienced teachers, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. We can't just put anyone there and just say, well, we put them there because they were Black, right? No, that doesn't work either. We need to put the ones that are either certified, mm-hmm. have the experience, or have the capacity to have went from the white school to the Black school, because a lot of times, the teachers have a wage gap, right? So you see some of the best Black teachers, some of the best minority teachers, they go to the higher paying zip codes, right? Take them and say, we'll pay you the same thing over here, mm-hmm. and they'll come, right? That's fair because we need them to educate our children, our minorities that are graduating at 70% rate, 80% rate, versus these zip codes over here are graduating at a 90% rate, 95% rate, 98% rate, right? So there's a big teacher gap in wages and a big teacher gap in experience and quality.
Right, and I think that we really have to, I know that we really have to train our children in the way to be. Y'all kids is bad as hell. So we sit here and we talk about the teachers not wanting to come to these zip codes and these districts because of one, the pay is low. Yeah. But then I'm gonna come and I'm gonna get a lower pay. I'm gonna deal with your children being disrespectful and bad. Yeah. It's not the teacher's job to raise your children. Yeah. A place that you can start is that we as parents need to instill not only identity but religion in our children again. Yep. You have to plant the seed in your child. That's why I preach this all the time on this channel about stay-at-home motherhood. And a lot of women disagree with it. They don't feel like they want to be trapped in a box. They don't want to give themselves away to their children or whatever the case may be, lose themselves. But it's so selfish because stay-at-home motherhood allows you that initial bracket of their life for you to instill who you want them to be, so that when they show up in these classrooms and in the world, they can advocate for themselves because they can recognize what does not align with them based on what you've instilled.
Yep.
They need to know God. They need to know what's right and wrong. Yep. Even when we talk about SA or assault or all these things, these children don't know how to identify because you haven't instilled in them what's a no-no spot, what's this, what's that. They don't know because you're rushing them off and expecting the teachers and the institutions and the school system and the curriculum to educate them on these things. And really and truly, they're going to educate them in a way that you don't approve of. Yep. Because that's their MO. That's their MO. And also, the school system, the curriculum is also tailored to the higher demographic, which is white, right? And so their culture and their experience is completely different than ours. How we need to be taught and how we need to be relayed information is different. Yeah. It is. From the way we talk to the lingo to this to that, it's very important for our children to see us. Yeah. And if they can't see us, if we can't change today how many black people are running to get a job in, you know, lower paying zip codes, if we can't change that today, you know who can be that black teacher for their children? You. And it makes up. Yeah. You see the TikToks or the videos. If Johnny had 2 apples. But that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. I'm not judging you because you get frustrated. I get frustrated. I'm like, Journey, do you know the sight word? Yeah. You know? But that's something that shows that you care, and it's also you taking their future into your own hands. Yeah, yeah. And to your point about we need to, you know, be focused more on educating them at home and teach them biblical understanding in biblical ways, right? Those two things, honestly, are the most important. There's a reason why, you know, in the Bible you find that it says honor your mother and your father, right? Why is that? The reason that is because children understand before they can even, because God is such a big being, right? He's saying you can't even fathom what I am before you can even understand what your parents are telling you, right? We as parents have to instill something into our children, right? We have to give them education ourselves. We have to give them discipline ourselves. We have to instill something into them and then lead them to the biblical ways, right? So that way, when they go to school, they have 2 things that were instilled to them: your parenting and God. That is the reason why these 2 things are important, because you can't expect your child to fathom God if you didn't teach them anything, right? You have to give your child the understanding of touching the stove is hot, don't touch it. Give your children the understanding of, you know, jumping from the upstairs to the downstairs is bad, you could break your leg, right? Teaching your children 1 + 1, 2 + 2, right? These things lead up, you know, and then before they go to school, you teach them, okay, you know the basics, right? You understand mommy, daddy, you understand all those different things. You understand these are your brothers, these are your sisters, this is your grandma, this is your uncle. You understand these things, right? Now, what do you do before they go to school? You instill the biblical text into them. So that way when they go to school, they know mommy, dada, grandma, uncles, brothers, sisters, God. So when they go to school, they say, God told me that's wrong. My mama told me that's wrong. My uncle told me that was wrong. My dad told me that was wrong. No. This is important, especially for children that are young, because they don't understand. You're empowering them, and they know, oh, I remember my mom and my dad taught me this. And they also read to me this.
that came from someone that's beyond them. Once they understand those two things, they can go to school and look at that teacher and say, this is wrong. Or look at the teacher and say, I can respect authority because my parents instilled to respect authority before I even came to school. We're not teaching our children how to respect authority. So when they go to school, they're not even listening to the teacher. The teacher, is trying to teach them algebra, trying to teach them 2 times 2, whatever the case may be, right? And they don't even hear it. Because you didn't even teach them how to hear you. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why they don't have an ear for it. Yeah. This is the reason why it's important to educate your children before they go to school, because you need to teach your children how to sit and listen to elders and listen to the person who has the authority. So that way when they go to school, they know that a bigger person, the adult, means authority. It means when they're speaking, I'm not speaking. It means when they say do, I do. But we don't teach our children that ourselves. So if they don't have to listen to mom and dad, how do you expect them to go to school and listen to the teacher that they don't know? The teacher that they only sit in class with for 45 minutes. They're not going to. They're not going to.
And also, to branch off from that, you have to teach them about authority for school, for
police officers,
work. All of that is going to require them a level of authority. But the great thing about it is, as a parent, you can also instill boundaries. So yes, the adult here is the authority, and I am going to listen and be respectful. But I'm not going to allow you to do these things that my parents told me are wrong. You won't assault me, you won't abuse me, you will not speak to me a certain way because my parents don't do that, and that's a whole nother video. But just to tap that, the way you speak to your children, the way you treat them, the way you handle them, the way you handle their emotions, other people have to deal with the things that you set the tone for.
Yeah.
So when you say, I gotta yell at Shauna for her to sit down because she don't listen to nothing but yelling, well, that's an issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue because a teacher does not want to have to yell at your children for them to listen.
Yeah, but okay, let's take it a step further, right? Let's say they hear us, they take our advice, and they say, well, what if we do those things, right? And we send them to school, but they're still not teaching our kids stuff. They're still not giving them the funding. They're still not, this zip code doesn't have iPads. This zip code over here, they get iPads, they get laptops. Our children don't get those things. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. I see why you would be upset about that. I disagree with the children that actually need something not getting it versus the children who don't need something getting it. That's a problem. There's a problem with funding gaps. There's a problem when you have zip codes who the zip codes, the median income is 80 grand a year, middle class, and they're not worried about if they can get food on their table when they go home from school or if they can get lunch money. The funding needs to go to the zip codes that the children don't know if they're going to go home and eat dinner tonight. Don't know if their parents can give them lunch money. That's where the funding needs to go. Why? Because those children need to be distracted with all the things that they have to deal with at home. They need to be able to go to school and say, I could use a laptop. I could use an iPad. I can make learning fun. I don't have to look at the old text. When they get to look at the new text, the new technology, I get to look at the new text and the new technology and make learning fun and make learning not boring, make learning speed up.
But Malik, the thing is, the truth is, we can't change that overnight. The gaps.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to them is, you can make learning fun.
Yeah.
With a bag and a spatula and noodles and rice. Your kids are so excited to do anything with you. Yeah. So understand that the more you invest in them, get creative, find ways, flick the light on and off and say 1, 2, 3, 4, help them. Because when you do it, it means that I'm getting some type of relief at home and I don't have to solely depend on school for an escape.
Yeah.
Yes, we understand struggle. And yes, we understand it's not fair and it's not right. But when it comes to our children, we have to do the best job we can to give them something that alleviates their suffering just a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll leave you guys with this. And I told her this the other day. If you guys have never heard of the parable of the talents, I'm going to tell you. So Jesus tells his disciple a story about the parable of the talents. And I think that this can relate to a lot of you guys. And you can go read it for yourselves. But what Jesus is telling them in this parable is, there is a man who was given 5 talents. There was a man who was given 2 talents. And there was a man who was given 1 talent. And I can relate that to school. So think of it as, there's a school that was born with 5 talents. There was a school that was born with 2 talents. And there's a school that was born with 1 talent, right? And what Jesus is explaining in this parable is that the man with the 5 talents, he took those 5 talents and he made 5 more talents. The man with the 2 talents, he took those 2 talents and made those into 2 more talents. But the man with the 1 talent, he buried his talent and put it away because he was afraid that someone might take that talent, and he was afraid that his talent meant nothing. So he hid it. So when they went back to the master, the guy with the 5 talents told his master, you gave me 5 talents, I brought you back 5 more. And his master said, keep those extra 5 that you have. Thank you for using those talents and making something of it. You can keep the 5, I don't want them. So now you have 10. And the guy with the 2 talents did the exact same thing. He said, Master, you gave me 2 talents and I brought you back 2 more. So I have 4 talents for you. And the master said, no, I don't want the 4 talents. Thank you for using your 2 talents and making them into 4. And so he let him keep those 4 talents. Now the guy that had 2 has 4. And the guy with the 1 talent said, Master, I thought you were being greedy. You have never, reaped what you have sown ever. So I thought you would just want to take my talent. So I hid it from you. But since I knew you're not doing that, here's your talent back. I only have 1 because I never did anything with it. Here's your 1. And he looked at him and he said, this is disgraceful because you didn't do anything with the talent I gave you. You were fearful and greedy and selfish, actually. When you thought I was the one being greedy, you were the one that was actually being greedy and selfish and unthoughtful. You know what? You want to give me my talent back? Give me my talent back plus interest. The moral of the story is, yes, it sucks sometimes. We have zip codes that have low income and lower education, but it doesn't mean we should neglect our responsibility to perfect our talents. If we have a zip code that has 1 talent, make that into 2, and then make that 2 into 4. And then make that 4 into 8, and so on and so forth. Because guess what? Sometimes you may have a guy who has 5 talents. This zip code over here, this school may have 5 talents. But the children who don't appreciate those 5 talents, 10 years from now, they're still going to have those 5 talents. But guess what? The one kid who started off with 1 talent at the lower zip code, and he made that 10 years from now, guess what he now will have? He will have 20 talents. Compared to the 5 who started off with 5 and he started off with 1, 10 years from now, he has 20 and they still have 5. That's the moral of the parable that Jesus wanted us to understand. And it's very, very important. And this is the reason why we say educate your children and why we say let them read the word, because it tells you everything on how to live life and how to teach life and how to get through life. Honest truth. Honest truth.
Absolutely.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Like, comment, share, and
subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Amen.